Incredible rescue. Discover the heartwarming transformation of a hidden Siamese cat from trash. Emma's heart raced as she rummaged through the tangled mess of her suburban neighborhood. It was supposed to be just another Saturday, one of those pastel mornings spent sifting through unwanted clutter for their upcoming garage sale. Yet, as she dug deeper into discarded toys and forgotten knickknacks, her eyes were drawn to something stirring in the shadows. A scrawny Siamese cat, trembling and dirty, exploded into view as it pawed through a dumpster like it was hoping for a glimmer of hope. Emma's breath hitched in her throat. This pitiful creature, with its matted fur and wide, terrified eyes, felt like a reflection of her own struggles. Overcome with empathy, Emma reached down, hesitated for a moment, and scooped up the fragile animal. A shiver coursed through her as she held it close like a weightless bundle of sorrow. "It's going to be okay," she whispered, brushing her fingers gently over its filth-coated back. "You're safe now." In that instant, she knew they had both found something in each other that day, a shared fight for survival. She returned home, heart full and mind racing with possibilities. As days turned into evenings, Emma, Ben, and Lily devoted their time to nursing the stray back to life. With each mending meal and caress, its once dull eyes began to shine. They named her Bella, a name that felt bright and alive. But as they celebrated this tiny transformation, tension crackled just outside the window, lurking in the suburbs' pristine homes. Whispers of disdain filled the air. Emma had broken the unspoken rule of their community, proving kindness to a less fortunate stray. Mrs. Cummings, the epitome of self-perceived virtue, had made a startling remark: "Charity should stay at home." Those words echoed painfully in Emma's mind, igniting a bitter anger inside her. And then, the community took another hit. The local school announced budget cuts that would gut resources for the very children Emma fought for. With desperation stirring in her chest, she knew she had to step out of the shadows. It was time for action. She gathered her neighbors, many of whom had cast her sidelong glances, and together they began organizing. Bake sales, meetings, and plans flowed like a river, carving new channels. The annual fundraising event transformed from mere obligation to a vibrant neighborhood celebration. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just when the community began to come together, Bella unwittingly became their mascot. The pounding of little paws and joyful meows drew laughter and warmth from the crowd during the event. Everyone shared stories of their own struggles, rekindling compassion among neighbors. Yet, as Emma took a breather, a chilling confrontation with Mr. Henley loomed. He represented all the walls of prejudice and privilege that had kept them apart for years. Their emotional exchange exposed the raw heart of their community, a jagged rift between those who understood and those who turned a blind eye. What had started as a simple act of love now hung in the balance. Would Emma and her makeshift family, buoyed by Bella's spirit, bridge the chasm of misunderstanding? Or would the burden of prejudice pull them back into isolation? The uncertainty tightened around her heart like a vice. The reflection of a bruised but hopeful America echoed in Emma's life as she braced for the challenges ahead. The night after the fundraising event was restless for Emma. She tossed and turned, unable to shake the weight of Mr. Henley's words that had lingered in the air like smoke. Had she really ruffled the feathers of their perfect neighborhood? It felt wrong, almost absurd, that caring for a creature like Bella, who had once known nothing but the chill of loneliness, could spark such hostility. Morning arrived, wrapping the world in a soft glow that Emma normally cherished, but today, it felt like a thin veil over an unsettling truth. As she stepped outside, a breeze tangled her hair, and she hesitated at the sight of a white envelope taped to her front door. Her stomach knotted as she peeled it away. It was from the neighborhood association. "Dear Emma, your actions have brought disrepute to our community." Each word felt like a jab straight to her heart. It was a clear warning. Love and compassion had boundaries here, and she had crossed them. It felt lonely and isolating, the sudden realization that while she was trying to build bridges, others were working steadfastly to create walls. Emma sighed deeply, allowing her breath to anchor her thoughts. She clutched Bella, who nestled against her chest, purring softly, completely oblivious to the turmoil surrounding her. "We'll figure this out, girl," she murmured. Determination ignited within her like a spark ready to catch fire. That day, she resolved to involve not only her neighbors but also the community beyond the well-manicured lawns and fancy fences. The upcoming town meeting would provide her a platform of forceful showdown against the whispers of Mrs. Cummings and Mr. Henley's silent disdain. The meeting room buzzed with conversation, but as Emma entered carrying Bella, a hush fell over the crowd. All eyes were on them, dual signals of disdain and curiosity. Emma's heart raced, but she held her head high, cradling Bella carefully. In her loving embrace, Bella felt transformative, a vulnerable yet powerful beacon of her purpose. "Thank you for gathering tonight," Emma began, her voice shaky yet steadying as she saw familiar faces supporting her. "I want to talk about compassion. And about community. And also about Bella." As she spoke, drawing personal connections between her life, the plight of the school, and Bella's heartbreaking story, Emma felt a shift. People began to feel, grasping at the threads of connection woven through their shared experiences. A few nods became visible, some whispers of agreement broke through, mapping a path from fear to understanding. But before she could finish, Mrs. Cummings rose, her voice dripping with condescension. "We are not a shelter, Emma. Strays and charity have no place in our society." The air turned heavy with tension as eyes darted between them. Emma's heart pounded. How could she sway this judgment? The essence of community lay in inclusivity. Couldn't they see that? "I find it hard to believe that kindness could ever be seen as a flaw," Emma replied, her voice rising. "How can we live right next to each other and choose to ignore those who need our help?" Suddenly, a small hand shot up. It was Lily, her daughter. "You once told me, Mom, that everyone deserves a second chance, like Bella." She could be been thrown away, and look at her now. A ripple of surprise spread through the room. Emma glanced down at her daughter, eyes brimming with unshed tears. This was their moment. One small voice could shift an entire perspective. Emma gathered her courage and continued. "We have the choice to show our true colors. It starts right here, right now." The silence felt electric, holding an uncertain hope. How would this chapter in the community's story unfold? Would Emma's heartfelt plea bind them together or further unravel their fabric? Just then, the sound of broken glass shattered the stillness, and everyone spun towards the window, their faces pale with shock. What just happened? Emma's heart sank as panic gripped the room. Emma's breath caught in her throat as she turned to see shards of glass strewn across the floor. The crowd reacted instinctively, darting away from the window like startled birds. She could sense the fear rising, igniting a wave of whispers. What happened? Was anyone hurt? Panic tightened around Emma's chest. She glanced back at Lily, who stood frozen, eyes wide with confusion. Bella squirmed in Emma's arms, sensing the tension but unable to understand it. "All right, everyone, stay calm," Emma shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. Trying to focus, she stepped forward, scanning the room. A newcomer was at the window, a tall man with a nervous expression, cradling a cat, a shocking flash of white fur against the dimming light. "Is that?" Emma's heart raced. She stepped closer, her feet moving seemingly of their own accord, and saw the familiar face of a Siamese cat she had spotted days before, wandering alone in the nearby alley. "This cat is injured," the man declared, his voice laced with urgency. "I was passing by when I saw him get hit. I didn't know what else to do." Gasps echoed through the crowd. Emma could see the community's icy armor cracking. "We need to get him help," she called out, stepping aside to allow the man into the room. "Does anyone have a blanket? A carrier?" Several neighbors rushed forward, the awkward tension slowly melting away. "Over here," someone shouted, tossing a soft blanket towards the man. Emma could see the cat's fearful eyes, wide and wild, but there was something deeper, an echo of resilience. As they reached the center of the room, Emma knelt beside the man, her heart pounding in sync with the unfolding scene. The once disgruntled faces of her neighbors softened. The fear of the unknown transformed into a collective concern. Just as the man settled the Siamese onto the blanket, its delicate frame trembling, it caught Bella's smell. Emma watched as Bella's gentle purrs mingled with the other cat's frightened whimpers. In that moment, she felt a surge of hope. Perhaps compassion had not left this room after all. "Okay, everyone," Emma said, her tone changing from desperate to determined, "we can't turn our backs now. We have a chance to make a difference." With hurried agreements and new energy, the townsfolk rallied together, gathering supplies and making calls to the local vet. Emma stood back, nearly overwhelmed by the swift transformation from skepticism to solidarity. Then, from the corner of the room, Mrs. Cummings cleared her throat, catching everyone's attention. This is not what I expected," she began, her voice wavering. "But if this community can come together for an animal, perhaps we can come together for each other too." A collective sigh filled the space. Eager nods and murmurs of affirmation began to spread like wildfire, the kindling of a once-drained sense of community slowly reigniting in their midst. "Let us show them what we can do," shouted another neighbor, their enthusiasm stirring like a wind in the branches, pushing away the shadows that had clouded the room. As Emma breathed in this shift, she felt the weight of the envelope against her palm. Love and compassion, she knew now, were only as strong as the bonds they inspired in others. But just as optimism began to fill the air, Emma caught a glimpse of movement outside the window. A shadow lingered, unseen yet palpable. Someone was watching. Her heart raced again, worry prickling at the back of her mind. Who was out there? Were they friend or foe? Emma's mind raced as she faced this new, silent intrusion on their moment. What could it mean for Bella, the injured Siamese, and the community's fragile hope? Emma felt her pulse quicken as she peered through the glass. The shadow outside loomed larger, a dark figure watching their gathering with intent. The warmth of community was still swirling inside, but that chill creeping down her spine reminded her of the uncertainty that festered just beyond the walls. "Who is that?" someone murmured behind her, breaking her focus. Emma turned, hoping for reassurance but finding the same questions mirrored in the faces around her. "Maybe it's just someone being curious," Lily whispered, gripping Emma's shirt tighter. "Or maybe it's someone who won tea like what we're trying to do," Emma replied, not quite voicing the fear that gnawed at her insides. The memory of late-night arguments and divided opinions echoed in her mind from before tonight's unexpected hustle. "Okay," she said, shaking off the apprehension for a moment. "Let us get this little guy situated first. If we give him our attention, we might forget the lurking shadows." With a collective effort, the neighbors surrounded the two cats, their voices mingled with gentleness. As they spoke soothing words, Emma could feel warmth reigniting in her chest. The man with the Siamese, still kneeling on the floor, looked up at the group and began to share the cat's story, how he had spotted it scavenging for food, alone and cold, days before it was hurt. "We can't let more happen to this one," Emma declared, her voice steadying. "Let us get him to the vet right now." Cheers erupted, and a couple of neighbors rushed for their cars, stealing glances at the windows as they left. But Emma couldn't shake the feeling that the figure outside was still there, surging like an impending storm on the horizon. "Emma," whispered Lily, pulling her back. "What if they're dangerous?" Emma knelt to her daughter's level, smoothing a hand over Bella's soft fur. "We can't focus on fear right now. We have to think of what's best, like what we're doing for the cat." With another quick glance outside, she stepped toward the door, resolved and determined. "Let us get this sweet cat the help he needs. If they want to stop us, then they'll have to face our determination." As the crowd began to file out, she noticed Mrs. Cummings walking over, her usual stern expression softened with concern. "About that shadow, dear," she started, looking troubled. "What about it?" Emma asked, a tightness forming in her throat. I saw someone standing there days before. They looked like trouble." Her voice shook lightly, as if recalling a ghost. Emma swallowed hard. "We're not letting fear hold us back," she replied, a flash of defiance sparking within her. But uncertainty loomed, nagging at the edges of her confidence. With everyone gathered around as they shuffled towards the exit, the atmosphere bristled with energy, a blend of hope and unresolved anxiety. Then suddenly, the figure stepped forward, inching into the edge of fading light. Emma's heart dropped. "Hey! What's going on?" The voice penetrated the night, heavy with authority. A collective gasp spread through the crowd. There was no turning back now. Emma squared her shoulders, preparing herself for whatever was about to happen. Who was this person, and what did they want? She gathered her thoughts, feeling the solid weight of Bella against her chest, determination flowing through her veins. This was a moment that could change everything. "Let us find out," she murmured softly to herself, stepping forward to face the unknown, unyielding. The figure cleared their throat, shifting slightly in the dim light. Emma couldn't quite make out the details, but she could sense an air of authority. They stepped closer, silhouetted against the gaudy twilight. Every person held their breath, a tight knot of anxiety tightening within their collective chests. "What's going on here?" The figure repeated, their voice sharper this time, slicing through the tension like a knife. "Is this a illegal gathering?" Emma noticed the badge pinned to their jacket, the officer's uniform crisp and professional. In that instant, all the community warmth felt trapped under a looming shadow. Not daring to look back at the startled faces of her neighbors, she focused on the officer, summoning her courage. "We're helping," she said, her voice stronger than she felt. "This cat needs a vet, and where you think you can just take animals off the streets?" The officer interrupted, their brow furrowing deeply. "That could lead to trouble. You don't know who they belong to." A ripple of uncertainty cascaded through the crowd. Emma could see Lily's eyes, wide and frightened, reflecting the flickering porch light. She swallowed hard, grounding herself in the present. This was no time for doubts. "It doesn't matter who they belong to," she argued, the tension in her shoulders loosening a fraction. This cat was alone and hurt. Everyone here cares about helping those in need, even if they don't have a voice. Isn't that what community do?" The officer paused. Their voice was still stern, but there was a hint of something softer beneath the command. "I need to know that you're not making this worse." "Well, we can't make it worse than leaving him in the cold," Emma persisted, glancing around, the voices of support rising behind her. "What's more important? Rules or compassion?" With her heart racing, she took a step forward, the weight of Bella in her arms giving her an extra touch of resolve. "Take a look at him." The officer glanced down, hesitating as if torn between duty and empathy. Emma noticed the way Bella had nestled into her embrace, purring softly, trusting without question. "This little one deserves a second chance." "We all do." A thick silence followed her words, pregnant with tension and uncertainty. The officer seemed to hesitate, visibly softening. "It's not just about you," they replied finally. "People don't always treat their pets right." "I've seen things." Emma's heart thudded in her chest as she struggled for the right words. "Then let's make a change. Together. We can show everyone that community can do more than wait for help to come. We can be that help." Suddenly, a voice from the back called out, "We can also connect with our local shelter. They can help us through this." Neighbors murmured their agreement, the hope growing palpable in the air. Emma held her breath, waiting and wishing. The officer furrowed their brow, and for a flicker of a moment, indecision danced across their face. Would they step back, or accept the urgency within that small gathering? Just as the officer seemed about to speak, a sharp shout echoed from the street. "You don't get to take that animal. It's against the law." Emma turned, her stomach twisting with dread. Behind the officer was a group of men, their faces obscured in the darkness but their intent clear as they charged forward like wolves sniffing out prey. "Now what?" she whispered to herself, her resolve tested once again. It was becoming clear that the fight for the cat was only the beginning. With the drama intensifying, Emma braced herself. This wasn't just about saving a cat anymore. It was about standing up against something much larger. Stay together. She called out to her neighbors, her heart pounding with each word. They had come this far. They would stand together or not at all. What would happen next? Would they withstand the rising storm of opposition, or was this journey doomed to unravel? Emma's breath came heavier as she prepared for whatever would come their way. The heart of the community faced an even bigger test ahead. Hold on tight, she shouted, feeling. All eyes on her now. The battle was far from over. The air crackled with tension as the newcomer's shouts echoed off the nearby houses. Emma could feel the pulse of fear and determination from those around her. It was no longer just about Bella, this had morphed into a stand against something she couldn't quite grasp yet. The group of men loomed closer, their silhouettes sharpening in the evening dusk. Move aside, officer, one of the men shouted, his voice laced with aggression. You don't need to interfere with things that don't concern you. Emma shifted slightly, feeling Bella squirm a little. We won't let you take her, she proclaimed, her voice stronger than she felt. Each word fought against the rising anxiety inside her. They had come so far, and no way would they back down now. Cautious glances were exchanged among her neighbors. Some looked anxious, while others took a step forward, emboldened by Emma's resolve. She caught Lily's gaze again, which held a mixture of admiration and fear. They were fighting for something as simple yet profound as compassion. Back off. The officer barked, stepping forward as a protective barrier between the community and the newcomers. This isn't what you think it is. But the men closed the distance, their voices grating against the night. You're interfering with our business, and let me tell you, it's not wise to play hero when you don't know the stakes. The provocateur took a threatening step closer, creating an unspoken ripple of fear among the gathered crowd. Emma's heart raced. She had the strength of many beside her, but beneath it all lay an overwhelming uncertainty. Was she truly the voice they needed? Could she really make a difference in this heated moment? I won't let you hurt her, Emma shouted, clutching Bella tightly. In that moment, she realized the weight of not just Bella's life, but of the entire community's fight for what was right. The officer hesitated, casting a fleeting glance at Emma. If you take a step back, this won't get ugly, they suggested, their authoritative tone shaken slightly, battling against the chaos closing in. Emma felt her knees tremble. We can do this together, she said, her voice resonating with hope. She glanced at her neighbors, whose expressions mirrored her determination. We can't walk away now. We have to stand our ground. A neighbor next to her, Mr. Harris, who spent years fixing cars and keeping the block intact, stepped forward. This isn't just about the cat. It's about us. We protect one another in this community. His voice rang out, powerful and unyielding. We're not afraid of you. The group of men halted for a brief second, surprise flashing across their faces. They had expected fear, but instead, the collective bond of defiance ignited from that simple truth. Emma felt it, the fire of unity beginning to burn brighter than before. With newfound strength, she turned to the officer, who looked at her with a glimmer of appreciation. Let us take her to the vet together. We'll ensure that Bella gets the care she needs and that no one here gets hurt. But just as she spoke, the leading man of the group suddenly lunged forward, hands extended toward Bella. Emma's heart sank as she took an instinctive step back, her body shielding the small creature. Everyone, stay close, she urged, recognizing the moment that would define them. Every heartbeat was a testament to their unity, and as the men advanced, she felt the weight of their shared resolve. Fear was no match for love. Suddenly, in the chaos, the officer raised a hand, shouting an order. Back off. I won't let any of you hurt her, not while I'm here. Would that defiance hold? Emma held her breath, ready for the next move, aware that this fight might change everything. Would this community rise together, or would the shadows of fear pull them apart? The air shimmered with possibility as she faced the men, ready to claim a victory that soared beyond Bella's future. What would it cost them, and could they truly prove that together they could overcome? Emma braced herself, heart thundering in her chest as the leader of the men lunged. Time seemed to slow. She could see the determination on his face, a fierce blend of anger and entitlement that made her blood run cold. The world around her faded, focusing entirely on the moment about to unfold. She tightened her grip on Bella, who was trembling, sensing the tension. "Step back!" The officer shouted again, their voice ringing clear. But Emma was frozen, the crowd pulsating with emotion, each person holding their breath as the impending confrontation loomed. Faces in the crowd turned pale, eyes darting, grasping for hope. She could feel it, the collective heart of her community beating alongside her, urging her on. "Don't!" Emma shouted, her voice breaking but fierce. "Don't hurt her." The man hesitated, his outstretched hand hovering in the air. The sheer volume of fear and intensity radiating from Emma cut through the chaos. It was as if she had drawn a line in the sand, and everyone was waiting for the other side to cross. In that moment of stillness, Mr. Harris took a bold step forward. "You think you can just take her? You think this is some game?" The sound of his voice was like a rock tossed into a still pond, sending ripples of courage through the crowd. More neighbors joined him, their words swirling in the cool night air one by one, their collective voices grew louder. "We don't want violence. Let us talk this out. What is your real intention?" The leading man's expression twisted in disbelief, caught off guard by the unwavering unity of the community. For all their bluster, they hadn't anticipated this kind of pushback. Their strength was built on intimidation, but now they faced resolute hearts fueled by love and protection. Emma's throat burned with emotion. She couldn't lose this moment. "You've got to understand," she called out, "it's not just about Bella. It's about what this represents. We stand together for one another." And with those words, she felt a warm wave of energy surging through her. The same energy sparked among her neighbors, igniting a fire of tenacity that seemed to lift them all. They were no longer just a block of houses, they were a community, a family. "Enough!" The leader yelled, frustration creeping into his voice as he took an unsteady step back. "You think this makes you stronger?" He looked at his companions, who seemed less sure now, uncertain of their next move. Emma could see the hesitation, the doubt creeping into their ranks. This was the crack in their armor, the moment where fear began to retreat and bravery locked arms with resolve. She felt the resolve creep into her bones, transforming her fear into something powerful. "Yes," she proclaimed. "We are stronger together. Together we protect our own, whether it's a cat or a neighbor." Before she could draw another breath, the officer moved in closer, positioning themselves between the men and the community. "It's time to leave," they ordered, directing their authority at the group of men. "If you have any sense of reason, you'll walk away now." The leader glared at Emma, and though she fought not to flinch, she stood taller, refusing to back down. The air thickened with expectation. Every heartbeat felt like a countdown to a new reality. Would they really leave? After what felt like an eternity, one of the men grunted, and they began to step back, exchanging frustrated glances. And just like that, a fragile truce formed within the darkening evening. But as they retreated, Emma's heart raced with renewed fear, knowing this was only the beginning. What would happen next? Could they trust that this wasn't the last of the threat? As relief washed over the crowd, Emma whispered a silent prayer for Bella. The night had changed, and with it, their resolve had deepened. "Together, we'll keep fighting," Emma vowed, clutching Bella closer. But the shadows lingered at the edge of their victory, and she couldn't shake off the feeling that something bigger loomed just beyond the horizon. What would they face next, in a world that felt more uncertain than ever? Emma stood there, Bella still shaking in her arms, as the adrenaline began to ebb away. The crowd around her seemed unsure whether to cheer or exhale a collective sigh of relief. It had felt monumental, an unexpected victory against the growing darkness. Yet, as she glanced around, she could see that many faces still held concern. "Is everyone okay?" Emma finally managed to ask, her voice trembling but steady. A few neighbors stepped forward, still shaken but alive with a flicker of hope. "We're all right," Mrs. Thompson said, her eyes bright with gratitude. "I never thought we could stand up to them like that." Others nodded, slowly recognizing that they had been strengthened by their unity. Mr. Harris added, "It felt like we were a wall, standing against those who thought they could break us." But as the words of praise filled the air, Emma couldn't shake off the feeling of unease. They had defended Bella, but in the back of her mind, she knew this wasn't over. The men had left, but for how long? Would they be back with a plan? Emma's heart weighed heavy with the thought. "What do we do next?" someone in the crowd asked, breaking the euphoria of the moment. Murmurs rippled through the neighbors, each questioning how to protect not just Bella but their community from future threats. "I think we need to band together," Emma spoke up, her voice rising above the whispers. "We can't just wait for them to attack again. We should keep an eye out for one another. Protect each other, not just from them but to strengthen our bonds as a community." A low murmur of agreement swept through the group. They felt the weight of her words and realized they were stronger not just when they acted as individuals but as a united front. Emma took a deep breath, feeling a flicker of determination in her chest. In that moment, someone shouted out, "Let us organize a community meeting. We can talk about what to do next." Emma's heart soared. Yes, community meetings. They didn't just talk, they listened, shared ideas, and devised plans. It was exactly what they needed. She could picture it, a room filled with neighbors, sharing stories and brainstorming protectiveness in a way that put them right back in charge. But that glimmer of excitement felt overshadowed by a deeper fear. What if their united front wouldn't be enough in the face of real danger? As the crowd began to disperse and people discussed the meeting plans, Emma felt a gentle nudge against her side. She looked down to find Bella gazing up at her with wide, trusting eyes. "I won't let anything happen to you," Emma whispered, stroking Bella's fur gently. She would defend Bella and protect her home, but every growing concern pushed against her heart. With each passing moment, the reality of an uncertain future settled heavily. Could they truly fend off whatever threat loomed just beyond the shadows? As the sky deepened into indigo above, Emma raised her gaze. "Together," she repeated quietly, every syllable firm with conviction, but raw with the weight of doubt. Suddenly, a sharp cry broke into the night air, slicing through her thoughts. It was a distressing sound that pierced the tranquility they had briefly regained. Emma spun around, heart racing anew. What was happening now? The uneasy feeling coiled tighter within her. They had fought a battle tonight, but there was no way to predict the next one. What could this new cry mean? And as uncertainty loomed once more, Emma steeled herself for whatever might come next. Would she be ready to rally her community it necessitated? Could she remain their heart and hope in the face of continuous strife? Emma's heart raced as she pivoted toward the source of the anguished cry. She fought to ignore the shivers of dread creeping down her spine, focusing instead on the values that had united her community just moments before. The gatherers around her shifted restlessly, exchanging nervous glances, unsure of what to do next. The comforting euphoria from their earlier victory was all but dissipating, replaced by a palpable tension. "Stay close," she called out, her voice gaining strength as she stepped forward. She knew they couldn't afford to let fear dictate their actions. "We need to find out what's going on." The crowd hesitated, glancing at one another as if seeking permission. Slowly, a handful of neighbors followed Emma, their footsteps a chorus of uncertainty echoing in the darkness. A small sense of camaraderie emerged among them, so palpable that it wrapped around her like a protective cloak. As they ventured deeper into the night, the cries grew louder, more desperate. She hurried, Bella clinging to her side like a shadow. The flickering streetlights cast eerie shadows that danced along the pavement, amplifying her anxiety. What could be causing such distress? They approached the old park, a place once filled with laughter and joy but now shadowed with memories of neglect and despair. The cry broke again, this time louder, sending chills down Emma's spine. She felt her pulse race as dread tightened her throat. Then, in the dim light, she spotted him, a small figure crouched near the edge of the playground, trembling and alone. It was a kitten, thin and frightened, with fur streaked with dirt and matted tangles. Emma's heart squeezed painfully at the sight. "Come here, little one," she whispered, kneeling down with gentle hands outstretched. The kitten peered at her with wide eyes, both skeptical and hopeful, torn between safety and fear. "Is it hurt?" someone in the crowd asked, inching closer to see. Emma wanted to say it would be okay, she wanted to promise such comfort, but her instincts warned her to be careful. "I don't know yet," she said, her voice soothing but firm, steadying the spark of panic tingling at her fingertips. "Just give it a moment." After what seemed like an eternity, the kitten slowly approached her. Emma's heart fluttered when the tiny creature finally nuzzled against her hand, seeking warmth and affection. She felt a rush of relief wash over her, instant healing mingling with the rawness of what they had all just faced. "Bella," she said softly. "It's okay. We're going to help this little one." Bella stood transfixed, her nose twitching in curiosity. As she cradled the kitten, Emma looked back at her neighbors. A sense of purpose began to fill the space as if they were once again united, this time by the chance to heal rather than just defend. "We can save her," Emma said, her voice breaking through the shadows as she held the little creature close to her chest. "Let us gather supplies. We need food, water, maybe a blanket." The murmurs of agreement bounced back, growing louder as they all rallied together. Emma felt a rush of hope surge through her. Moments ago, they had faced an unknown terror, and now they were prepared to bring warmth and kindness to something so vulnerable. But just as they began turning away from the park, a deep growl rumbled from the darkness, sending electric jolts of fear through the group. Emma froze, clutching the kitten tightly. "Did you hear that?" someone whispered, eyes wide with apprehension. Emma's heart sank. They were not alone. Was the threat still lingering? She felt the weight of her promise to protect Bella and now this fragile life in her arms. The shadows deepened, and the growl echoed again, more menacing. "Stay together," Emma called, her voice resonating with a strength she hoped was enough. But the fear this was not over. What awaited them now? Emma's heart pounded in her chest as she tightened her hold on the trembling kitten. All eyes turned towards the source of the growl, a mix of dread and determination mirrored across the faces surrounding her. They had come so far, faced so much together, yet here they stood once again at the precipice of uncertainty. "Is it a dog? A wild animal?" someone murmured, eyes darting from shadow to shadow. "I don't know," Emma replied, trying to maintain a calm demeanor while feeling the urge to run. "But we won't leave without the kitten." As if in response, the growl resonated again from the darkness, deeper this time, reverberating in the air like a threat. It was a sound of warning, and the tension pulsed through Emma. "Stay close," she shouted, courage swelling within her. "We stand together." With that, they stepped forward, a solid wall of support molding around her. In the faint light, Emma could just make out movement. Something large and shaggy was emerging from the alley. With a swift motion, a stray dog trotted into their field of vision, panting heavily and coated in mud. "Oh no," someone gasped. The dog's eyes were wild and searching. It looked worn and weary, yet there was a spark of vulnerability buried beneath the chaos. "Wait!" Emma exclaimed, raising her hand, sensing the animal's fear mirrored her own. "It's just scared, like the kitten." "Are you sure?" a neighbor questioned, taking a cautious step back. Emma took a deep breath, searching for an epiphany in the animal's frantic posture. "We've been scared too. But just like us, it needs compassion." One by one, her neighbors began to inch forward, forming a circle of hope around Emma, the dog, and the kitten. Their combined warmth began to break down the barriers of fear. "Let us try to help it," she urged, voice steady. "Grab some food and water. This might not just be about saving the kitten." With renewed determination, the crowd responded, gathering whatever scraps they could find in pockets and bags. As they threw pieces of food toward the dog, Emma took a step closer. The distraction worked, the dog swung its giant head towards the treats, cautiously moving toward the scattered bits. Emma felt her heart swell. They had turned from potential chaos into a moment of unity, propelled by compassion, a force stronger than anger or fear. As the dog approached the offerings, a low whimper pierced the mix of sounds. The kitten, nestled safely in Emma's arms, squirmed as if empathizing with the dog's pain. "Look at those two," Emma said, her voice filled with wonder. "Even they understand." Glimmers of light shone in her neighbors' eyes as they realized they were no longer bystanders, they were active participants in a healing moment. They encouraged the dog with soft murmurs, their collective gentleness casting a spell of hope across the trembling creature. With every small gesture, the air lightened, transforming fear into purpose. The dog sniffed curiously, inching toward them with cautious steps, its eyes softening as it filled its belly with food. Then Emma turned to her neighbors, her voice breaking through the scattered giggles and whispers of relief. "This is what community looks like. You welcome those who are lost and scared, just like we did with Bella. We're more than a neighborhood, we're a family." Her words resonated within the crowd, igniting something deeper within each individual. They were not merely gathered here, they were an embodiment of connection, vulnerability, and strength, all working toward one goal. Again, she felt the swell of love bind them tighter. Before long, the dog sat down, devouring the food as if to say thank you. Relieved smiles transformed apprehension into joy. Emma looked around the crowd, witnessing their shared triumph, genuine laughter spilling over their earlier fears. Yet as she turned back to the dog, its dark eyes sparkled with gratitude, revealing a different kind of challenge ahead, a need for homes, safety, and change. "We can't just help tonight," Emma said, her voice unwavering. "This is the spark we need to extend that compassion beyond the barriers of our street. Let us continue building this community of kindness." Nods of agreement erupted, and there was laughter and chatter. Ideas began to flow. "We could organize weekly gatherings," someone suggested. "Adoption programs for local animals," another chimed in. As laughter echoed around her, Emma felt tears prickle her eyes. This was a transformation, a revitalization of not only her heart but everyone's hearts joining together in a swarm of unrelenting hope. This was the moment they transcended fears together. Day by day, they would fight against the shadows of negativity, reclaiming their identity as compassionate protectors. Those first shocks of tension had been tests, and they had passed by standing together as an unbreakable force. And deep in her arms, the little kitten purred softly, Bella by her side. They were all safe, for now. Emma dared to believe they could face any storm ahead, not as isolated souls but as a unified force emerging from the shadows. In that profound stillness, united in hope, love, and a sense of purpose, she made a promise. They would be watchers over their community. They would advocate, care, and shine their light against the dark for Bella, the kitten, the dog, and every soul in need. This was the beginning of transformation, not just in their lives but within the fabric of their community. So as the night stretched on, Emma smiled, feeling the warmth of camaraderie and love wrapping around them all. The story was only just beginning, and it was beautiful. And now, if you're touched by this story of hope and transformation, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive tales that will inspire and uplift. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others discover this heartwarming journey. Comment below your thoughts, reactions, and feelings about this ending. Your voice matters. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Together, let us be the catalyst for kindness.